I'm folding my washing.
Oh, right. That's what you're doing. Are those underpants?
Let's start on underwear.
They are. Okay, right. Hi, Lil. How are you?
Are you aware that Simon's folding his underpants?
Yeah, I am painfully aware that he's doing that.
He said he's so painfully aware that I'm folding my underwear.
He's not ironing it, however, that's a small...
That's a small mercy, but some people do iron their underpants.
Some people do.
I am not one of those people who irons their underpants.
No, you don't. I wouldn't have...
Hang on, are you saying that you think that I have wrinkly underpants? Is that the inference?
Well, not when they're on you, because they're always, like, smooth.
How would you know what they look like when they're on me?
Well, that's an excellent start, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was going to talk about monogamy and non-monogamy, but this is much more interesting. This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
I've been so profoundly missing my mother. It just is over. It's just waves of grief. It's extraordinary, and in the most benign and banal situations or surprising situations. And it's very beautiful. But wow, does it leave me? It's it's destabilizing, and it's not least because that's probably the most profound feeling of being destabilized by her goneness, her absence, her not being there. And in the like I say, when I say benign situations, I mean I was actually, after I did it, I did some fancy slashing on a loaf of bread yesterday, and Lil came out and she goes, "It's really nice, but you're the last person in the world I think would do that." And it did, and I kind of was really sad about it because it's definitely one of the times I would have just taken a photo and sent it to my mother, because she would just take such delight in the pattern of these particular slashes on a loaf of bread. So yeah, just in really benign situations like that, just profoundly missing her.
I think I said that my mum has said to me recently, she still misses her mum every day. And my mum's 81, and her mum died when she was in her late 30s.
Yeah.
So
it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So record scratch, but I really do need to know, what did you want to talk about monogamy and polyamory? Or what do you want to say about it?
It was actually the word that was used. It was a book I was reading, and I didn't bring the book home from work, which was a mistake. I wrote a little note, monogamy versus non-monogamy, and they used the word non-monogamy.
Non-monogamy.
And the reason was because they were, this particular writer was talking about the convention of monogamy, and its other, according to her, I think she goes by she, was non-monogamy, and she was talking about practicing a non-monogamous relationship or relationships. And I think in part it was because she was trying to say, what is it that we presuppose, or what is it that how is it that we ended up or assume that is the way to have a relationship, to be in a relationship with another person? And it was partly, I think, out of the failure of a relationship of hers, a monogamous relationship. And so she used the verb to queer, that you know well, like to queer the concept of monogamy and to queer the ways in which relationships occur. And it just it struck me. It just struck me as an interesting thing to think about, to entertain or to imagine or to consider, which is what is it about monogamy that that has such let's say weight or substance in our culture. And I'm going to say our culture. I think, I'll just say our culture. I won't make be any more specific than that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how long have you got?
Well,
about another 20 minutes. Yeah, I know. But it feels to me that lots of it comes down to patriarchal structures of control, anxieties around property, and that sense that we being men, want to pass down the property that we have earned to our children, knowing that they are
but
ours.
that's historically
So
you're saying that,
yeah,
right?
but
that's not you're not describing you or describing a friend who.
No, I'm not. No. Well, not in a. I don't think in a conscious way, but I think that we have been so. If you think about the fact that this is at least 2,000 years of rhetoric, if not more, those are some deep cultural narratives that have really got their hooks. And if you think about the language of homosexuality, heterosexuality and bisexuality and how much that will get people's knickers in a massive twist, and that language has only existed since about 1850. The words just didn't exist before then in the way that we understand them. They are the emergence of Victorian sexology that grows out of botany. It's a relatively new set of thinkings, but people will just get. I mean, to be clear, it goes back eons in terms of
practices,
controlling people's behaviour. But the languages around it, the language that we have used to ossify in the West, are still.
Is that in the English language or in Western languages or?
I think it's in. Well, I think it grows out of English language, but it's Latin language, isn't it? Because it grows out of it's Latin language. So it's from Romantic roots. I think it spreads everywhere. I think pretty much homosexual is homosexual everywhere.
Omosessuale and
yeah, exactly.
Well, it's going to be in Italian, of course, because it couldn't be any more Latin, really.
Yeah, and it's the same in anyway. That's the languagey bit of sexuality is a bit of a lot of a side road. But that was just to kind of say, if we're talking about something which is a couple of 100 years old and is so deeply enmeshed in the way we understand ourselves and the way we hate other people because they're not like us, imagine narratives that are over 2,000 years old about power and control. In relationship to property and in relationship to the notion of being confident that thing that is running around on the floor is our thing that grows out of our genes, which we couldn't tell until relatively recently in terms of science. So we had to put incredibly stringent laws, social laws in place to ensure that women were not having children from other partners and passing them off, although of course that happens as well. So there is a sense that there is something like deeply patriarchal connected to that idea of controlling procreation and genealogy, I think.
But do you think does that mean that you're someone who holds on to the ways in which culture infects us, culture from beyond when we were born, infects us, and that to a greater extent than, for example, the things I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to control this person. This is just about wanting to be with her. Do you think those things are going on in a way, in a substantive way, in an incredibly powerful way that's even beyond our kind of awareness, you might say?
Yeah, I think for me, certainly, if I was to think about how I see the world and how I conceptually understand the world, I would want to be queer polyamorous.
Yeah.
That's what I would want to be, somebody who was in relationships with multiple genders, informed by the moment-to-moment exchanges. That's what I would want to be conceptually. because it feels to me to be the one that is the least controlling, the one that is the most open, the one that's the most inclusive and full of potential for joy.
Wow.
But I am also deeply, deeply enmeshed in heterosexual monogamy as a singular narrative, and I can't, and maybe don't want to as well, on a kind of, so there's this conceptual me, and then there's the emotional me. The emotional me
sounds like a Disney script, doesn't it? A conceptual me.
Well, I mean, I know you're joking, but the Disney scripts for the majority of the time that they've been being made, I mean, fairly recently there's been some shifts away from that, but they've been reinforcing these narratives so incredibly strongly.
Sure.
But the emotional me can't imagine a world where I could make space in my heart for anybody who isn't Bob.
That is deeply fascinating. And also just to recognize, for me, the beauty and I think a kind of vulnerability of you just articulating those different versions of yourself. Because I'm not sure I could do that. I think I would see it, even just the thought, but certainly the articulation of thought, let alone in what is effectively a public forum, to articulate that kind of, I don't know, desire doesn't seem quite the right word, but that kind of sort of openness is, I think I'd really struggle to articulate that, to recognize it and articulate it. So I just, thanks.
It's weird. It doesn't feel like it's particularly open because it's a conceptual space.
Yeah, but
in the same way that I think conceptually I would like to be much more full-throatedly socialist in my way of being in the world, but I'm deeply, deeply capitalist. And so again, there's something there about the system in which I have been baked, and also that continues to work around me. As much as I see the benefits and the values of a socialist system, because I live in a country which is so avowedly anti-socialist in its approach, I am not encouraged to give things up. So I haven't. I could make moves to live in a more communal setting where property was shared. I could move towards that kind of landscape, and certainly here in the far southwest, it's relatively easy to find
those kinds of
like
cooperative
that.
kind of
Yeah, but I as much as I conceptually think, that would be the right thing for the world, I can't find it in myself to do that. So it feels
so it's distant enough from you to make it easy to articulate, you mean?
Yeah, and I think it's the same with saying, I think in a different context I would be more happy. Not more happy. I would be happily. There we go. That's what I mean. I don't mean this is a scale of happiness that's stopping me get there. But I would be happily queer poly. It would be fine. I think that would be lovely. And I'm basing that on the fact that, I've had lots of dogs and they all lived in the house at the same time, and I loved them differently, and that's fine as well. So, I know in my body that I can care for things at different resonances, but at the same time. But I can't translate that into my human interpersonal interactions in an emotional landscape, because that thing about me being able to walk away from friendships.
Yeah, I remember. I'm just waiting.
Okay. Well, you've got about 4 more episodes. Bob is the only thing in my life that I have not been able to walk away from. And we've both been clear that we understand that there may be a day when that stops as well. So it doesn't feel open to say, I could be that thing.
It seems it's too surreal. It's too unreal.
Yeah. It's even less real than if I won the lottery, I would buy these things, or I would give this money to these charities, because that's.
Yeah,
If I buy a lottery ticket, I could. Do you know what I mean? It's
Sure.
it's even more fiction theory than.
I know. I think the thing that I made a joke about conceptual me, but I think the thing that's I don't quite understand, or that doesn't, I don't know how you do it, is that separation of yourself into, let's say, what would you say, conceptual and whatever the other one was,
I actually
practical.
said emotional, but
Emotional.
no, it's emotional rather than practical, because I think there's a pragmatic me as well. And there's a pragmatic me that's connected to, property law and all of those sorts of things that are about, well,
Sure.
this would be more difficult because of this reason and blah, blah, blah. So,
But I guess I'm figuring out how to articulate that because the concept of a conceptual me, the idea of a conceptual version is, it feels very difficult to grasp, as quite intangible for me, because I think I'm going to say that if I think something, I think I have a strong relationship to the ownership of that thought. That the thought implies being deeply connected to who I am, and so to conceive of something reveals something of myself in a way that seems distinct from what you're saying. I'm happily able to say,
okay.
and so that's what I'm saying, is that it would be. I feel it would be much harder, or it would be. And I'm not saying much harder because I don't know, but it would be difficult for me to say in a different space, I would be this or this.
So last night I was walking Jeff for his late night walk, and I was thinking about the future. And I was thinking about a version of the future that might be. And I had to have a word with myself. It's like, oh, I feel in this moment that I am living more in the future than I am in this moment. In that I wasn't really present on the walk, and I hadn't, if I'm honest, I hadn't even really been present during the course of the day, because I was doing something. I was doing a task for work, which was all about projection. So I was thinking into and writing into a possible version of the future where if this happens, this can happen. Yeah. So I was doing some scoping.
Yeah, you were time traveling.
I was time traveling, yeah. And so I'd spent the day time traveling at work, and then at the end of the day, and I finished work, I was continuing to time travel, but in my own life. And so I was feeling very, very anxious by the end of the day, because I wasn't present. I hadn't been present all day. And again, maybe this is partly to do with the fact that Bob's away at the moment, so there was no human presence in the home to ground me. So I said out loud, when you get home, you need to sit down for 15 minutes. You just need to return to now. You have to work on presence, which is what I did. And I went to bed feeling a lot less fizzy. And a lot of that conversation in the meditation was just reminding myself, I am not my thoughts. I am not my thoughts. And I have to tell myself quite regularly that I am not my thoughts. So I will sit with myself and try to untangle myself from those internal monologues, or try to untangle something from those internal monologues, because I'm not sure if it's myself that I'm untangling at all. But sure. Anyway, and I just wonder if that's, because I spend quite a lot of time needing to do that in order to feel capable of moving through the world in a way that doesn't feel really fizzy and anxious
or choked even.
Yeah. So I think maybe the idea of a conceptual self is something that I've cultivated an understanding of and gone, well, yeah, those are thoughts, and that's the thoughty me, and that's a version of me, but it's not me any more than, this is me. So I don't know if that's a true thing, or if it's, I don't know.
Well, I like it though. I always thought it's funny, isn't it, the language? That I am not my thoughts was also a way to diminish the concept of self as well. It's not an order to discover the I. It's actually a redistribution of the I.
Yeah.
Or a dissolution, or an increased dissolution of the I. Thanks, Lee. Do you think that's a conversation?
I think it is, because I don't know.
The little bit of feedback I had was from a website. Was the same friend saying alltopeverything.com. Do you know that website?
No, alltopeverything.com.
Yeah,
No.
it's if you want to find out the most of anything, you go to this website. The most downloaded YouTube video, most watched YouTube video, for example.
Is it Charlie Bit My Finger?
No, it's a kid's song, which you'll know. No,
I really like Baby Shark. It's a good
Baby
song.
Shark, that's the one. Baby Shark. It's something like, I can't remember, like more than 10 billion times it's been watched.
I'm imagining that there's a lot of parents who
On cycle, on loop.
It just calms them down.
Which is, Baby Shark. So alltopeverything.com.
Okay, I'll save that for when I need to know the top of something.
I'm going to save it for when I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm just going to...
Will it not make you really angry? How can people be thinking that's the number one X of Y?
Oh, yes, and also there's that firing that blue light into my eyes. What could
possibly go wrong?
Yes, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Jeff decided that I'd had too much screen time yesterday.
Did he?
Yeah,
Did he knock your phone out of your hand?
He does that regularly. That's quite a normal thing, that he'll just walk up to me and iPad or phone, he will just put his hand on the top of it and with increasing pressure just push down.
I imagine children do that to their parents. That would be my guess, is that children do that. They'll get angry.
They might do, or they might want the screen. Jeffrey just wants the screen out of the way. That's it. That's a barrier between you gazing at me and me gazing at you.
So he's not on.
Okay.
He's not on the Dalmatian subreddit then.
No, he's not. He is not. He just pushes them to one side. But yesterday, I couldn't find my telephone at bedtime. I was like, I want to put a story on at bedtime, and I can have it on as loud as I like because Bob's away.
That's true.
Where's my phone?
While you're sleeping diagonally.
Exactly. Starfishing in the middle of the bed.
Angels in the bed.
Oh yeah.
Talk about polyamority. Polyamority. No.
Yeah. So eventually I had to go and find my watch, which was charging, put my watch back on, and then do that thing where you can make your watch ping your phone.
Yeah.
And from directly underneath Jeff, there's this pinging noise.
He
and
was
just looked
lying.
at me. Oh yeah, and he would not move. I said, I need my phone. Get off the bed. He said, nope, you can't have it. It will be too noisy. I don't want it. So I had to charge my phone this morning because Jeffrey slept on it.
He slept on your phone. Imagine all the radiation he was getting. He did that for you. That's love.
He did. He
took one for the team.
He threw himself on the grenade that is an iPhone.
Exactly.
12.